Hi guys, we're back. And I'm gonna show you how to breed thousands of bristlenose babies. So I've been breeding Bristlenose Plecos for about 2 years now, and I really just wanted to show you guys my current setup for how I'm breeding them and keeping them super healthy. So I have changed my ways a little bit since I first started, and I did just want to kind of share that with you guys. So originally we were just breeding in a single tank. I had a pair of plecos in there and they had their babies. I let them, do their thing, and the babies would come out the cave and then they would all be in the same tank. And what I found is that tank got really filthy really quickly. So what I'm going to show you is basically what we're doing now and how we're caring for them. It is a little bit more involved than just leaving them and letting them go, or community breeding. I think it is worth the effort because we're getting super healthy babies and almost no die-off whatsoever up until selling size, so 3 centimeters and above. So I'm going to go through this basically from scratch. So we're going to start with how to choose a pair of bristlenose. Usually I like to get about 4 or 5. Now this is the first way that you can do it. Get anywhere between 4 to 6, and you're probably guaranteed to get both sexes in that mix. The next way to do it is to actually purchase a breeding pair. Now this can get a little bit more expensive. Your common plecos can range, a pair of them can range anywhere between $60 and $100. Once you start getting into your more specialized colors, that's when you're looking at a little bit more money. You know that like your super reds can go upwards of a couple hundred. So depending on what you're prepared to spend and what you want to do, those are your 2 options. Now, you definitely want to make sure that you have a male and a female because that's how that works. Grow them out. Takes about anywhere between 9 months to 12 months, depending on how small the bristlenose are, of course, for them to get to sort of sexual maturity. Once they are a little bit bigger, that's when you want to start introducing caves. Now, there are a few different color varieties of Bristlenose Plecos. You've of course got your commons, albinos, lemon blue eyes, super reds, and long fins. Now, long fins do come in all those color varieties as well. I do also know in America there is a morph called the green dragon. We don't have that here in Australia. Alas, I wish. But that is another color morph that isn't widely known. So the easiest way to know which is a female and which is a male is the male actually grows a mustache. So they grow bristles on the tip of their nose right up to their eyes. And the females can sometimes have a few bristles on their nose, but they don't have them as much as the males. So it's just a little bit, or they don't have them at all. The boys are a little bit slimmer and the girls do tend to be a little wider as they do produce eggs. Now that that's out of the way, let's have a look at a tank setup. So this is my peppermint bristlenose tank. I didn't mention them in the color morphs because these guys are actually a different species. They are very similar in breeding, so I figured I would show you their tank. So I've got my male there, and my female I think was hiding in here, and then I've got actually a third female. So this is a trio. She is little still, as we actually grew her up from I think they were like 2.5 centimeters when we got her. So we've had her for like over 12 months, and she's the first one to reach sexual maturity size. So we've popped her in with this breeding pair that we've had for a while. I like to give them 2 caves in their tank. It gives that male an option of choosing one and picking the one that he likes the most, which makes them happy and makes him want to flap for the females. There he is. You're gonna come out, bud. I put all of my bristlenose on a substrate. I'm just using a gravel here. It is a little rough, this gravel, but they don't seem to be bothered too much by it because they are an armoured catfish. I'm finding that the plecos really don't mind a rough gravel, a smooth gravel, a sand. They're not bothered. The next thing that I like to add in is a piece of wood. Now, bristlenose plecos definitely need wood to chew on. That wood will create a biofilm, which they love to munch on, so I definitely recommend adding that in. Rocks, I just placed some rocks in there, which obviously you can see that female in there, which you can barely see, likes to hide in there. So it's just an extra hidey place. One of the biggest things that you really want to be aware of when you're breeding fish or wanting to breed fish is that your fish need to be happy. They need to be well looked after, feel secure, lots of food, you've got to have 5-star accommodation for them. I don't actually believe that you need this for your other bristlenose, but we have dither fish. So I've just popped in here some lamb chop rasboras, which I love. I think they're great. They look really good in the tank, actually. Really nice and coloured up in there. And then all of my tanks are using sponge filters. Sponge filters are nice and easy. They create a decent flow in the tank. Some plecos love flow, some don't mind. I'm finding that the sponge filter is perfect for breeding. I'm keeping them in a 2-foot tank. What I will do is I'll pop the gallons on the screen. But that is basically it for your setup. It is simple, easy peasy. You will, if you do not have a heated room like I do, you will need a heater in here. These guys like to sit a little hotter at about 25 to 26 degrees Celsius. This is for the peppermint plecos particularly. Your bristlenose plecos can go a little bit less. They are happy at 24 degrees. I usually keep them around 24 and that suits them quite nicely. But everything else is the same. So all your setup, so you want the piece of wood, you want some hidey places, you want caves for them. That is complete setup for bristlenose, whether it's common, peppermint, whatever color, that's what they want. So I will quickly show you some of my other tanks and just give you like some more examples. This is the lemon blue eye tank. As you can see, there are rocks, there is wood, there is caves. I've got dither fish in here simply because I had nowhere else to put these guppies, so they are in there. And I kind of like the idea of it being a yellow tank. So I've got my lemon blue eyes. You can see his tail. Look, that's the fish right there. Just a tail. Then I've also got my 24 karat guppies. All of my pleco breeding tanks are the same size. They are all those 2-foot tanks. So I think that's our boy there. If we can see in the cave. No, that's my boy there. I've also got some shrimpies in here. Not very good. They're kind of culls from my reds. So they're not a very good quality, but I just needed somewhere to put them and they are thriving in here. Like there are literally so many shrimpies in this tank. So I guess shrimpies and plecos go together really well. What I have heard though, if you get too many shrimps in your pleco tank, your plecos will stop breeding because they're annoyed by them. So that is just something to keep in mind. But as far as I can tell, like these guys are fine. Like bristlenose plecos, it takes a hell of a lot to stop them from breeding because they're quite prolific. Okay, so those are my 3 examples. I do have more tanks here. I've got a common tank as well, but I feel like you get it. Rocks, wood, caves, substrate, filter, heater. That's what we want. Okay, so now that you guys have seen some of my tanks as examples of breeding tanks, I want to talk to you a little bit about water parameters. So the first thing that I want to tell you right now, the most important thing, if you take nothing else away from this video, take this: your water parameters need to be stable. If you take nothing else away from this video, take that. Keep your water parameters stable, whatever they are. I'll run you through what works best for me. However, I don't want you guys chasing numbers, because it's a never-ending game. Honestly, it's never-ending. So the first thing that I look at will be temperature. As I said before, I do keep my plecos in 24 degrees Celsius, but they are really comfortable in anywhere between 22 degrees Celsius and 26 degrees Celsius. They're a pretty hardy fish, so their pH range is quite wide, anywhere between 6.5 and 7.5. 7 is always best for most tropical fish. However, they are fine with a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Now, because of where these fish are actually originally from, they tend to live in the base of mountain rivers. They do get like a flush of rainwater through, so they do like a softer water. Honestly, with these guys, they are really, really tough, so you're not gonna have much of a problem if your water is a little harder. It is just more important to keep it stable for them. You wanna make sure that the water is clean. So this means that if you are feeding a lot, which you will be to condition them, you then want to, of course, get rid of any of that excess food the next day or a couple hours later, just to make sure that the water remains clean and ammonia-free. As you saw in my other tanks, I use sponge filters. That means that my water is well oxygenated. Usually, if you've got any kind of surface tension breaking, you're going to have oxygen in the water. If you want to add an air stone, 100% do that. They do like a little bit of air in their water. So you've got your tank set up, you've got your pair or your colony in the tank, you're ready to go. The first thing that you're going to want to do is, of course, condition them. So you want to make sure that they have a really, really good, healthy variety of food to give them that protein and energy to create eggs. So that's for the females in particular, the males, of course, as well, because they are going to be looking after them. They need to store energy in their bodies because they do not eat during the period that they are looking after those babies. I've personally found that once you've just put them in the tank, it takes a little longer for them to settle and get ready and condition up for breeding. I've had pairs go anywhere between 2 and 6 months before they were ready to go. The thing with these guys, once they go, they don't stop going. They continue on. So you'll probably get fry every month, which is great if you are looking to sell them, or if it's just a project. It is always fun to see them come out of the cave and enjoy, you know, and it's rewarding. So we are currently feeding our plecos once a day. We feed them a range of different food, including some high quality algae wafers and some spirulina sort of granules. On top of that, they love veggies. So we feed them zucchini, which I think is one of the more popular vegetables that most people will feed them. They love zucchini. So they get zucchini quite a bit. We also feed them capsicum and mushrooms. I have found that the babies love mushrooms. The other thing that we have been feeding is spinach. We've only just started recently doing this, and it is amazing. They love it and they eat it up, like whole bunches of spinach, which is amazing. So I definitely recommend going and grabbing some spinach for them. So once my fish look nice and fat and I know that they're eating and they're healthy and they're happy, that's when I'll start doing some water changes. Sometimes it does take a little bit to trigger them. So basically what I will do is a 10 to 20% water change with slightly cooler water than what they currently are in. This is to simulate the idea of rainfall. It tends to trigger them to spawn. So that's what I will do if I'm having trouble with it. Now I'll do it every day for a while until they start to go, or until they think about going, or I see some spawning behavior. Otherwise, I have honestly found that plecos are just a waiting game. You just sit and you wait, feed them, keep them happy, make sure that they're in a 5-star hotel, and they will breed for you. As long as they have a cave and the correct conditions, they will go. Something that is really important when your male is on eggs is that you do not disturb him. Even if you're cleaning the tank and stuff, try and stay away from him, especially his tail. Because I have found that if they feel anything on the back of their tail, or they feel that there is any problems in the tank, they will eat those eggs, or they'll kick them out of the cave. Now, if they eat them, of course, there is no eggs left, therefore no babies. So leave that male alone, let him do his thing. I've had eggs hatch sooner and then a little bit later. Like they sort of take about 3 days to hatch. Sometimes I haven't noticed them until like the 3rd day or until they're hatched. They will stay in the cave though. So once they've hatched, they will be eating their egg sac. Now they will remain in the cave with the male fanning them for up to 2 weeks. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes a little more, but usually it is about that 2-week mark. During this whole time that he's looking after these babies, he's not eating. He's not coming out of the cave. He's not leaving the babies alone. He is in that cave. So you really do want to watch him when it's over and the babies are either out of the cave. You can let them out of the cave if you've got a large enough tank. In here, in my little 2-foot tanks, I do not have enough space for like 100 babies. So I pull the eggs, and I don't pull the eggs, I actually pull the fry. Once the eggs or the babies are out of that cave, I want you to keep an eye on that male, because they haven't eaten, especially if they've gone back to back. This can happen. You might find that that male will come out and start gorging himself on food. Now, I get it, he's hungry, but what can happen is he eats too much too quickly and he can get sick and die. So it is really, really important that you sort of watch him a little bit and just give him a little bit like food in sort of moderation. So don't starve your fish, but give him like some pellets and make sure that he's not overly eating. Once the babies are ready to come out and they've eaten their egg sac, great. It's great work, guys. I tend to take them just before they come out of the cave. So I've popped them in a tray like this. So it's just like a fry tray that I've created with some water circulating. I'll just show you that one. We'll leave them in here for a while. So I want to get them a little bigger. So usually around that 1.5 centimeters. So these guys are almost ready to come out, but they're happy, they're eating. They will eat all of that like by tonight at like 5 o'clock when I go ahead and feed everybody. That spinach will be gone. So the other thing that you can do, this is a rain head filter, which is just from a hardware store. We just got this at Bunnings. It's PVC, it's got a little grate in it, and we've popped some foam around the top so it floats in the water. So they're just all sort of sitting in this rain head with their packet of spinach and an Indian almond leaf. You can see that they love the spinach because all their poo's green, but they're little. So they're going to stay in here for quite a while before we might end up moving them to a tray. Sometimes we do that. Otherwise they will stay in the rain head until they're about 1 centimetre and then we'll move them out. Once we've reached that 1.5 centimetres, it's now time to move those fry into a larger grow out tank. It's kind of important to do this because if you keep them in a small environment like that, it can stunt their growth a little bit. I like to move them into a 4 foot. I've got this 4 foot here that these guys are in, and they're only really small. They're about 2.5 centimetres to almost 3 centimetres. And I have found that once you move them into that larger tank, they sort of shoot up a little bit. They grow really quickly. I definitely think there is some sort of correlation between tank size and water volume and fish growth. That's in my experience. And there's probably someone out there that's like, well, duh, but I didn't know that. Now, depending on your tank size, I've got a 4 foot here that's actually split down the middle. There's a different color variation in there. So depending on the size of your spawn, of course, you can either have the whole tank or have it split down the middle like I have here. I have it split down the middle because I have these reds, super reds, and I've also got some lemon blue eyes on the other side growing out. I didn't want to put them together because the super reds were born after the lemon blue eyes, and the lemon blue eyes are significantly larger than these guys. So what I have found is that if you put 2 batches together that aren't the same size, they bully each other over food, and one batch will not get food and they will die. So that's why we break ours up into batches. Now, the great thing with these plecos is they are bottom dwellers. So you don't have to have a whole 4 foot tank going to waste. You can breed something else and pop it on top. So I've got my blue angels in here that are for sale, by the way. If you guys are interested in any angels in this tank, I do have an ad on Gumtree at the moment. So I might even pop a link in the description below if you want to check that out. But I also have, if I can find some that are they're all hiding under the filters. So these guys are 3 centimetres and ready to go. We have quite a few here, very small. They've all come out. So the great thing about putting these guys in a grow out is that you don't have to, you can put other fish above them because they are bottom dwellers. So, and they're great because if you're feeding the other fish heaps of things, they'll clean up all the mess. So yeah, that is my angelfish. Aren't they pretty? I know we're talking about plecos, but look at how pretty they are. So pretty. Okay, so yeah, once you get to that 3 centimetre mark, great. That's time to sell. So how do I get to that growth point quickly? That's the next question, isn't it? So we've moved them into the grow out tank. What we want to do now is we feed them twice a day. So once in the morning before we go to work and once at night when we come home. I do sometimes give them a little extra when I get home from work, just as like a quick snack, some live food, or because I've got angels in there, so it's sort of for both of them. It's not like, you know, because plecos are vegetarians, but they also like a little bit of meat every now and again. So a brine shrimp here or there is not going to kill them. So we feed them, of course, veggies again. So they do get their spinach packets. They do get zucchini, things like that. But then we also do what we call flake cake. Basically, all it is you grab like a pinch of flake, put it in the water, squeeze it together and let it drop to the bottom. They love it. They love it. All of our fish are eating them. They are growing really well on them, and yeah, it's just easy and great. So get yourself a high quality flake, make little flake cakes, send them down the bottom, leave them in there. When they are real small, you will find that they won't eat all of the food. Fine. All you gotta do is vac it up, which brings us into the next point, which is water changes. I do 10 to 20% water changes on these tanks every single day. If I'm growing fish out and I want them to get bigger, they get water changes every day without fail. 10% is not a lot. 10% is like to there. It's like that much. All we're doing is diluting the water. So something that plecos do is that as they grow, they release a hormone into the water. This hormone stunts growth in other fish. They do this for survival out in the wild. So it's something that's come from like the species of fish from when they were wild caught. The reason for this is because they don't want another fish in their territory to come along and kick them out. So it's a survival mechanism that these fish in our beautiful, lovely tanks don't need to do that because no one's kicking them out of their tank. They're fine. You need to dilute that, otherwise you'll find that one will grow, the rest will not. Or they will not, none of them will grow because they're all releasing the hormone. 10% water changes, 10 to 20 depending on how dirty the tank is, because while I'm doing a water change, I will then go ahead, siphon all that food out, extra poo, things like that, keep that water clean. So I will go ahead and do that every single day just to make sure that my fish are happy. Now I'm keeping a lot of fish in tanks. So these are 4-foot tanks, definitely got enough water volume in there to handle it. Plus I'm doing water changes every single day. You can bump that down to every second day if you don't want to do it every day, because like some people aren't crazy like I am. I get it. The more water changes that you do, the more growth you will get. So it is important to do those water changes, but that will definitely get your growth up to a point. So I think we are currently sitting at 3 centimeters in 3 months. I think that is where we're at. So these guys are getting a high quality diet, water changes every day, clean water, oxygenated water, and they're growing rapidly. So I have found with this method that I'm running at the moment, going from cave to tray to tank, I am losing, if not any, 1. I might lose 1 because every now and again you get one that's just not right. Like it's not, something happened to the egg, it got busted, or it didn't, develop a spleen or something. Like there's always sort of something that can go wrong. Where before, when I was leaving them in a tank and they were all just sort of growing and community spawning, I was finding that I was getting ammonia spikes. Once the ammonia spikes happen, it'll burn their little baby gills. Because they're so small, they aren't as hardy as their parents. Once their gills are burnt, they stop eating and they die. So yeah, this is what I have found to be the best method of breeding these guys. And I've had a lot of success, which means that I'm finding it really enjoyable and rewarding. And I wanted to share it with you guys because I wanted you guys to have this success. Recapping, basically you want to pick your male and your female pleco, whether you grow out a bunch or you go ahead and buy a pair. Set them up in a 5-star hotel tank. Get multiple caves in there for the male to choose where he wants to set up his nest. You can either let those fish community spawn in the cave as long as you guys have enough water volume in there, or you can take the babies, as I do, and grow them up a little bit in a tray or fry tray or a little fry floating container. You want to make sure that you feed them lots and lots of spinach and fish food. Get them to 1.5 centimeters, then you can move them into a 4-foot tank. Once they're in the 4-foot tank, you then want to go ahead and do 10 to 20% water changes as often as possible, once a day to every so many days. This will dilute the water to ensure that your fish will continue to grow and be healthy. You want to feed your tanks twice a day with flake food and vegetables. You can grow out other fish above your plecos as they are bottom dwellers. And once they are at 3 centimeters plus, they are at sellable size, and you can go ahead and sell them to shops or wholesale, or even online if you want to. Are you guys breeding plecos? If you are, let me know in the comments below. I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know what your experiences are with these fish. I love them. I think they're so fun and so rewarding, and I definitely recommend you give it a shot if you haven't already. Like and subscribe for more aquarium and breeding tips and tricks. Because I'm definitely planning on getting some more videos out there now that I've had a decent break. Check out my other videos. I've got a whole bunch of tank builds, breeding tank builds, how to breed CPDs, and some fish room tours. So if you want to check out any of my other fish, head over there, check out those videos, and I am going to catch you on the next one.